For this video, I'm going to introduce and discuss the notion of how to get a video game controller, a console controller for various video game consoles, to work with a current Windows-based PC. Here is a shot on my current PC. Here you can see my monitor and my mouse and keyboard as such. I'm going to be showing you the first class of device I'm going to discuss are the USB-based adapters. I have 3 such adapters that I'm going to be discussing with you today. The first is this device here. This is, as you can see, it has a USB plug here, and at the other end you'll see 2 PlayStation 1 or 2 style ports on this device. This device, I'm not sure of the name of it, but this device supports 2 simultaneous PlayStation 1 or 2, I believe 2 controllers. I don't actually own a PlayStation 2 controller, but I own many PlayStation 1 controllers. And this device, when connected to a PC, and if you're running Windows XP like I am, it needs no driver. Although there are drivers available, I know for Windows 98, 95. I think Windows 2000 this picks up automatically by the operating system, and I'm not sure if these work with Windows 7 or Vista, but I'd imagine that they do. But this device works very well, and I'm going to be connecting it and showing you the kind of a thing that it does. So the first thing I'll do, you notice here's what the screen looks like before I connect the device. Now I'm going to take the USB plug. I have 2 USB inputs right here on the side of my PC. Simply plug it in, and you'll see here that Windows is finding the device, found new hardware, USB interface, USB human interface device, and HID. Found new hardware. Your new hardware is installed and ready to use. So now I'll go to the control panel and go to Game Controllers, and you can see here the MP8866 dual USB joypads, and you see it finds 2 of them. That's because there are 2 slots on the USB device that I connected. Now let's go back to the device, zoom out, and I'll connect some PlayStation controllers. Here's one, a PS1 DualShock controller, the first PS1 controller that had the dual analogs controller that became the standard in the PS2 controller. And hold on just a moment while I get a box of PlayStation 1 controllers. And here are 2 boxes actually of PlayStation, various controllers, mostly PlayStation 1. And so, well, actually there's a lot of a variety of controllers here, but the majority, if they're to be ascribed to any one system, they go to PlayStation 1. And I'll take some of them out so I can show you. We have here an EA Sport controller, a standard Sony PlayStation 1 controller, the non-dual shock, the kind that came with the system on its original release. Another one of the non-dual shock controllers made by Sony, and yet another one. And that's, I think, all the kind of different Sony PlayStation controllers I have here. Yes, it is. So I'm going to put two of the standard PlayStation 1 original non-dual shock controllers away, since I only need one to test with. I'll go to this box here. I have a ASCII pad. This is not the turbo kind with the turbo switches on it, but it's made by ASCII. It's a nice shaped controller. It's a PlayStation 1 controller. And here's another PlayStation 1 controller, special Namco one with really nice handles. And I'm not sure what this button here does, but we'll try it out on with our USB adapter and see what it does. If I recall correctly, this spinning part does not work. I don't know what game this went for or what it did. But it's a nice controller, really nice handles on it. And there's no other PlayStation 1 controllers here. Let me take a look in this drawer for any other. No more PlayStation 1 controllers. I don't think I own any other kind of PlayStation 1 controllers, so this will exhaust the PlayStation 1 controllers. Now for the actual test demonstration, I'll proceed to connect some of these controllers to the adapter and show you what happens. So we have 5 different ones here. Well, I'll connect the most complex of them first, the dual shock controller. So I'm going to put my camera down while I unravel some of these. Since I don't have a tripod, it makes it easier to do it with the camera down. Now I've gotten them all unraveled, and you could survey the 5 controllers here. And I'll start by connecting this one, and there's 2 player slots here. I don't know if you could see that, but I'm having trouble reading it myself. This is player 1, and this is player 2. So I'll connect this first, the dual shock device, to player 1. And we'll look at our Windows screen. And I'm going to go to the first one on the top here, and you'll see a test. Test the game controller. This is a standard test. You'll see what it looks like here too. It's interesting. So I'm going to move the controller around, and you see here, let me get it so you can see both. As I push, let me zoom out a bit. If I push up on the D-pad, it moves up on the screen. The little crosshairs there, left, right, and you can see diagonal. The diagonals work. I'm going to start pushing some buttons. See, this one maps to 3, this to 4, this one's mapping to 1, this is mapping to 2. The L2 and L1 bumpers, I think as they're called, those are flashing, mapping. The L1s are flashing, so the L2s and L1s both work. The R2s and R1s both work. Select, start, and you notice now the dual shock buttons aren't working or doing anything. The analogs are not doing anything. That's because the analog feature has to be turned on first. If I turn it on, then you'll see there's motion with these. And you'll see here this is moving around on the the cross area, the other analog is moving. And the actual up, down, left, right are now showing up on the point of view hat here. And yes, all these do work in games. I have tested them. And I'm going to shut the analog off. I've actually used this particular controller with this device to beat, to play through and beat successfully Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the PC version, not a PS2 emulated version or anything, the actual PC version. So this works great on the PC, and I'll show you some of the other controllers too that they do respond. So I'm going to be testing them on port 2. This one here, I'll try first the EA Sport controller. So now notice that both are connected, both controllers are connected. Again, we'll look here. See, now this is not doing anything on this screen because this is the first of the MP. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I move the controller around here. The CA Sport is not showing up or changing anything on this screen because this corresponds to the first controller that I connected, and that's the DualShock, or the controller I connected into player 1 port on the USB device. So let me close this menu and go to the second option, second controller. I'll hold the controller up so you can see up, down, left, right, start, select. You see the these buttons, what are they called? Squares, triangle, X, and circle. They light up. The R1 and R2 and the L1 and L2, all of them work. So now I'll go back to this and I'm going to disconnect these two controllers. And I'm going to connect the next two controllers that I want to show you. And I'll work with this ASCII pad here. This is an interesting one. The pad is worn. I don't know if the pad's worn out or it's not very responsive. Not a very good pad on this thing. I had another one ASCII pad like this, but with a bunch of nice turbo switches on it. Every button could be set to turbo or auto, I think, on it. And I think it also had slow motion capability. That controller sadly broke. I lent it to a friend years ago who wore it out completely. I mean, they really got a lot of use out of it. But it was a nice controller. This is the similar shaped controller, but it does not have the nice turbo switches, which is a real shame. So I'm going to connect this controller to port 1, player 1 port, and I'll connect the standard original PlayStation 1 controller to player 2 port. And then I'll go back to the Windows screen, or control panel. I'm going to shut this, and I'm going to go to the first input,